In this video, I'll show you how to create a calculator using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Whether you're a beginner or looking to improve your skills, let's get started. I will create a folder called Calculator for our project. Then drag it to VS Code. In this folder, I'll create 3 files for HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. In the index.html file, I'll type exclamation mark and press tab to expand a basic HTML template. Then I will add CSS file. Also, I add JS file at the end of the body tag to ensure all HTML loads before the JavaScript runs. Now I want to open the HTML file by live server. So right click on HTML file name and choose Open with Live Server. If you don't have live server on your menu, click on extensions icon in VS Code and search live and install this extension. Now you can open your HTML file by live server. I change title of the web page which appears in the browser tab. As you see, the calculator has 2 sections, screen and keys. I'll create a div element as a container. So within this div, I will create an input element as a screen and a div as a container for keys. Input element is writable by default, but we don't need to type in it. So I use a read-only attribute. Now I want to create keys. Within this div, we will have buttons for digits and operations. This button displays 7. I will set onClick attribute. When the user clicks this button, the function add to a screen will be executed and pass 7 as an argument. I will copy and paste it for 16 times. And change the button's value. Let's move on to the CSS. First, I reset the default margin and padding to 0 for all elements. Also, box sizing to border box. Now I want to style the buttons. Width 80 pixel, height 80 pixel, background color black. We don't need border, so border none. Border radius 10 pixel. I will set cursor to pointer. Font size 2 rem. And font width bold. I wanted to use CSS grid for buttons, so I need keys wrapper as a selector. Display 3. Need template columns. Repeat. I need 4 columns with the same width, 1 FR. Also, I need gap between buttons. Also, padding 25 pixel. I want to style the input element. So I go to HTML file and copy ID name and go back to a CSS file with 100%, height 100 pixel, margin button 20 pixel, also padding 10 pixel, background color black, and we don't need border, so border none. Font size 3 rem. As you see, I need to limit width of the calculator, so I use main container as a selector. Max width 400 pixel, background color, border radius 10 pixel. Now I'd like to put the calculator in the middle of the page. So I use body as a selector and use flexbox. Display flex, justify content, center for horizontal alignment, align items center for vertical alignment as well. As you see, vertical alignment doesn't work. Let's go to find the problem. So I click right on the page and click on Inspect. On Element tab, I hover on Body element. As you see, body doesn't have enough height. So I go back to CSS and set height 100 viewport height for our body. Now it is in middle of page. As you see, the corner of the screen are not rounded. This is because the input element has overflow. To hide any overflowed content, I use overflow property within main wrapper. So in the calculator class, I set overflow hidden. Press Ctrl S to save the file. Now the input overflow is set and you can see the rounded corners. I want to change the button's color when the buttons be hovered. So for button element, I use hover pseudo class. I prefer use HSL color model. So I go back to buttons style and change the model of color. I hover on the color code and change the model of color by clicking on the top of the color palette. Copy the background color, paste here, and reduce the brightness. Now the buttons be darker when it hover. Also, I will set new color for buttons when the buttons be clicked. So for button element, I use active pseudo class. Copy the background color, paste here, and reduce the brightness as well. Now buttons be darker when it clicked. I like the operation buttons have a different color. So I go to HTML file and set a class for operation buttons. Class operator dash btn. Copy this class and go back to CSS file and set background color HSL 54 for hue saturation 100% and 62% for lightness. We need to set different color for hover. Copy and paste last name using hover pseudo class. Copy background color and decrease the lightness. Now it works. I'll set different color for active mode. Copy and paste background color and decrease lightness. Brilliant. It works. I want to have different color for clear buttons. I should set a class for clear button as well. So I go to HTML file and set a class for clear button, clear-btn. Go back to CSS file and set background color HSL 15 100% 49%. We need to set different color for hover. So copy paste and use hover pseudo class and set background color and decrease the brightness. Set background color for active mode. Copy and paste and decrease lightness. Now I click on C button. It works. Now we have HTML and CSS set up. Let's move on to the JavaScript file. This is where we will add the functionality to our calculator. At first, I select input element by ID and store it in a constant variable. So const, I choose display as a name for variable, document dot get element by ID, inputs ID is screen, we need three functions for our calculator. One function is to display the digits and operations that the user clicks on. So the function name will be add to screen. Another function is to clear display when the user clicks on button C. I go back to HTML file and change the button C function's name. Clear screen. We don't need to pass any argument. Copy the function's name and paste it here. Last function is to display result when the user clicks on button equal. So I set the function's name in HTML file. This is equal button. I choose calculate as the function name. We don't need pass any argument. Copy function name and paste here. I set a parameter for first function. When a button is clicked, the new value parameter represents the content of that button. For adding digits and operations to a screen, we will have display.value plus equal new value. Display refers to input element, and display value access the current value that's shown on calculator's screen. This operator appends the new value to the existing content of the screen value. For example, if the screen currently displays 7 and the user clicks 3, the screen will update it to 73. Let's go to check. I click on buttons. As you see, the digits appear on the screen, but I should to change the color of the screen. So I go to CSS file and set color white for a screen. It got better. I go back to JS file. Now in this function, I want the screen to clean when the user clicks the button C. So display.value equals empty. It means the screen will be clean when the button C be clicked. I press 7, 8, 9 and then click on C. The screen is clear. And finally, the result should be displayed when the user clicks on equal button. So display.value equal eval display.value. Let's check it. 7 plus 7 equal 14. Here 1.5 multiply 2 equal 3. 3 divide 3 equal 1. Press C button to clear. 45 minus 6 equal 39. Plus 7 equal 40. Divide 8 equal 5.75. Clear. Now I check it by incorrect operation. 45 minus plus equal. Doesn't work. So I go to developer tools. On console tab, as you see, we have an error. We should handle this error. We can do that using try and catch block. I use try block and catch block and put this code inside try block. If there is an error inside the try block, catch block get an error and the code inside of catch block will be run. So I set a message to show an error. Display.value equal to error. Let's go to check it. 45 minus divide equal to an error. I go to developer tools on console tab. As you see, there aren't any error. I would like to display 0 when the screen is empty. So I go to HTML file and for the input element, I set the placeholder attribute equal to 0. I change its color. So I go to CSS file and for screen ID, use placeholder pseudo element. Color white. Thanks for watching. I hope this project helped you learn more about coding.